What's up, you guys? Welcome back. We have another end of the year awards. This time we're going to be talking about the best card draw that we received all year 2021. I, of course, am taking your opinion into consideration here. Ran a few more polls than I usually did just to get the best idea out of all the cards, most of them at least, which ones you liked the most. Now, before I get into things, first I would like to remind you, if you have not already, please do subscribe to the channel. Thank you so much for beyond 29,000, that's incredible. And if you want to become a channel member, you can also do that to support the channel. I really do appreciate you guys. I've had a pretty fun year. So just all year, going back to Kaldheim, the very first set, up to Crimson Vow, the most recent one. So back around Kaldheim, we've got probably one of the best green creatures all year in Toski, Bearer of Secrets. And in doing the poll, I know a lot of you really like Toski. Very practical card draw if you're all about combat, if you're primarily a creature-focused deck. This is how you want to get your card draw. You want to be able to guarantee yourself card draw every turn if possible. And in a lot of green decks, you're capable of dealing combat damage pretty easily. We're starting to see this ability more on green creatures now. This actually comes from the card Coastal Piracy, going all the way back to Mercadian Masks. So essentially having that on a green creature that could possibly be a commander option too. Being an indestructible one, there's a huge advantage here in playing creatures that can't be blocked, means you're almost guaranteed that card draw. And then the second major set of the year, Strixhaven, we actually got a decent amount of card draw. This was more of a Spellslinger set, so if you're a fan of cast triggers, if you're a fan of copy triggers, this was the set for you. And we got the card Archmage Emeritus, which, this is more of the same in blue. You know, this is the rich getting richer, so I don't think it stood out to as many people. Blue definitely didn't need more card draw, not like with white or red. Now I know some of the best card draw that stands out, it's card draw that you can get every turn. And like with Toski, you can get that just about every turn if you can cast an instant or sorcery or copy spells every turn. But I'm a bigger fan of cards that really helped out where there was a need. And I think with Secret Rendezvous, you are giving an opponent 3 cards as well, but I can't tell you how often that doesn't really matter, because there's always another player at the table who's not in a threatening position. So giving them 3 cards isn't going to have much of an impact. You're really just in it to pay 3 mana for 3 cards, which, compared to other colors, I think black, you would end up having to pay 3 life in addition to the 3 mana, so just looking at card draw, what you're used to paying mana for, this is pretty above average. And then Adventures in the Forgotten Realms, we got a pretty decent one here in Deadly Dispute. If you're a fan of cards like Altar's Reap, Village Rites, anything like that, you know exactly what to do with this card. It's very predictable, but it does kind of take it up a notch. You are getting a little bit more value for this instant speed sack to draw cards, and that you're also getting a treasure token. For the Commander product this year, it's worth pointing out we have the card Stinging Study. It maybe isn't super practical in that you're not going to want to pay 5 mana early in the game just to draw cards. You typically want that card draw to be quicker, but I still think it's worth playing. And then for Modern Horizons 2, we have Esper Sentinel, which kind of took it up a notch. If we're just looking at white this year and the previous years too, we've just received a lot of support in card draw. And Esper Sentinel kind of takes Mystic Remora, puts it on a little creature, and if it's their first non-creature spell they cast a turn, you get to draw a card unless they pay mana equal to its power, which is easy to manipulate. There are a lot of decks that'll help you do that, but even if it's just 1 mana they have to pay, that's still a bit of an inconvenience depending on what point in the game you're at. So for a creature that sits on the field, and especially in white, if you get to add more card draw to your deck, you should definitely go for it. We also had Scythess Harvest's Hand from Modern Horizons 2, and while this isn't going to fit in as many decks as Esper Sentinel, it really helps take the Enchantress strategy to the next level. It is essentially the rich getting richer. We have a lot of cards that are like that here. But now you have the ultimate commander for that strategy. So you would play all these enchantments that draw you more cards whenever you play enchantments. You have creatures that'll let you draw cards whenever you play enchantments. So with this commander, in many situations, you're just drawing 2 or 3 cards each time you play a spell, which is just insane. So yeah, Modern Horizons 2 definitely gave us a lot more support if we're just talking about how to make our decks more competitive. And moving on to Midnight Hunt, not a ton of card draw, but one that I think might be flying under the radar in Morbid Opportunist. It has clear weaknesses when compared to other reliable cards like Grim Haruspex, Midnight Reaper. Those are great, those can trigger several times in the same turn. And while Morbid Opportunist doesn't, it's a bit more flexible in when it triggers. So it's not just your creatures, it's any creature. It could be a token creature. And since it's once each turn, it could be your opponent's turns and you're drawing cards off of that. So don't be too distracted by the restriction there. I still think if you can get card draw without having to pay any more mana, without having to invest any more mana, you have a pretty solid card. And then for Crimson Vow, holy cow, we got a ton of support. Let's start it off here with the Commander product. Well, not really the Commander product, but it's from the set, Wedding Ring. This isn't going to be practical card draw that you play in order to advance in the early game, but I think it's a fun card if you're looking to play Politics in Commander, if you're looking to even play Group Hug. Because what's yours is mine, right? If your opponent is gaining life, if they're drawing cards, you're going to be gaining life, you're going to be drawing cards. And yeah, that's a condition on their turn that has to happen, but I still think it's incredibly powerful. Making any kind of alliance, it goes back to cards like Secret Rendezvous. Just give it to an opponent who is not the biggest threat to you, and you're likely never to get burned by it. And then we have one of the biggest plays of the year, Cultivator Colossus. Now this again is not practical card draw, do not play it like it's going to be practical card draw, but it could fill your hand up in a single turn. So if you like playing things like Kozilek, you're playing it for the same purpose, you want to fill up your hand, you need resources. And for that purpose, I think Cultivator Colossus is great. But we have the next card here that's also from Crimson Vow, Welcoming Vampire. This is a bit more practical and gaining card draw early on, kind of like with Morbid Opportunist. You don't have to invest any additional mana into the card, and you're getting card draw. That's really important here. You're only paying 3 mana, and you get the ability. Easiest comparison here is to Mentor of the Meek, and I know some people will still like playing that card because, again, you get multiple triggers a turn if you want it. With Welcoming Vampire, you just play the creatures. You just have the creatures come into play, and you get to draw the cards. This is once each turn, so keep in mind that you get to do this on your opponent's turn as well. So there's a clear downside here, but I think there's a lot of upside. So looking through all the different polls that I did, I wanted to be a little bit more fair about it. Knowing that I could only put a maximum of 5 cards per poll on YouTube, it's a little weird like that. I decided to start out with 3 different polls of 5 cards, and then I would choose the winner of each of those polls and then do a final poll. So looking at the first one here, Esper Sentinel just blew everything else away. Wasn't even close to being close. And as you can see, there were some people who liked Toski. And the second poll we had, Sithis also ran away with that one. About half the people voting on that chose Sithis Harvest's Hand. And as you can see, there was also the card Plum the Forbidden, Wedding Ring, Vega the Watcher. But again, there's not a lot of love for Secret Rendezvous, so keep an eye out. And the third poll was kind of surprising because I knew a lot of people would vote for Cultivator Colossus just out of the bias that it's one of the most powerful cards all year, and it did win the award for Best Creature ETB of 2021. So here I am thinking that that's going to be the major distraction, when actually most of you were in favor of more practical card draw. So Welcoming Vampire winning this poll was a huge surprise. I'm a big fan of that card, so let's look at the final poll, what you guys decided out of the 3. Sithis, Esper Sentinel, or Welcoming Vampire, and this one was absolute murder. Esper Sentinel with 80% of the vote. Without a shadow of a doubt, this is the best card draw that we received this year for Commander, or wherever you want to play. It doesn't have to be Commander, it could be Modern. Point is, it's just a great Magic card. Sits on the field, you end up drawing yourself more cards. It's always about how early you can get a card out there, and how likely is it to help you out. And I think more people favored that than the big play in something like Cultivator Colossus. They favored that over the specific nature of something like Sithis. And with Welcoming Vampire, it's a little bit slower. You could end up drawing fewer cards with it, and you do have to pay 3 mana. There's just a lot to like about Esper Sentinel, and it's also worth pointing out that these 3 cards are all in white. So you guys really appreciate when we get white card draw. White is historically a color without a lot of card draw, so I think these polls speak volumes. But anyway, let me know what you think about this. What is your personal favorite card of 2021 that draws you cards? I will try to put out some more polls here. You should see them pretty soon. All December, I plan on making some of these videos, so stay tuned. I will see you guys next video.